All right, we're going to begin in this restorative bone therapeutic session by sitting on a chair. Your back of the chair could be right at the wall. You'll need a wall space today. It could be in the middle of the mat. I want you to have all your yoga props that you can imagine you'll need for class: belts, belt ball, blocks, sandbag, bolster, chair. So have the block down at the foot of the chair, so that when you sit, whether you're on a blanket or you're on the firm chair, some people like a blanket if they're a little taller for this one, you'll position your feet so that when I step my feet on the chair, in fact, actually, I try to guide my knee out versus the idea of stepping into the bottoms of them, because, you know, we spend a lot of time stepping on them. So we're going to slide the feet so they motion together. If this height of the block is not enough for you and you want more, or if it feels iffy on the knees, just add another block. That's all you do. So the feet are together. They're sort of semi-together. If I put my hands together, it's a little easier to press. Trying to press my feet together firmly like my hands is not possible because of this arch. So get a feeling of the weight in your hips, the shoulders holding on to the belt. So the shoulders in some sense hold the belt overhead. And first, I want you just to hold the belt in a kind of a minor way. So I hold to the sides, so my arms are stretching open, and I'm just simply rounding the back and then extending the spine into cat-cow. So alternate moving the hips to center, spine rounding, inhale, lift up the chest. Yeah, the arm position is creating a little bit of circulation through the heart and the lungs. It's effort. Okay, now let the arms reach up so the elbows are straight. And I want you to lean to your right. And you're going to stretch the left side of the waist towards the left side to open up through the waistband. Your head could look up, it could be centered. You could be closing your eyes to just feel. Come back center, and I want you to pivot, right? So you're going to stretch that other side. Now, instead of overly stretching, like trying to get that arm, your right arm as high as possible, feel the movement of the waist. You know, like when you do side sage, your circulation is important. You come back in center, and then arms forward, round the back, pull on the belt, inhale. There's resistance, I know this is a little challenging. Chest is lifting, inhale, and exhale. Saying that doesn't help, does it? It's an excuse to say that it's challenging. Last time, inhale up, chest. And then as you center, I want you to take the belt aside. All right, and place your hands by the sides of the chair so they just dangle. The arms dangle. Lift the shoulders, inhale, and roll them back. Inhale, shoulders lift. Exhale, back and down. Inhale, lift. Roll back and spend the focus. Let the focus be really on the shoulders motion. Yeah, it might be a little soundful for you, clickety clackety, could be, but when you lift, feel what your maximum shoulder lift is. Good. And then feel when the shoulders move back and the chest slightly opens. Step the feet out on the floor. Have the sense of the legs. So I'm not completely on the back of my chair, I'm sort of close to it though. So I want to get a feeling that my legs are slightly supported, right? The undercarriage of my upper leg, like the buttock is supported. And then as I bring the hands to the knees, I'm going to lean forward. And then as I go to that leaning position, I start with the feeling of sitting bones in this kind of wide stance. That's it. Sitting bones are wide. And then tilt to one side, any side will do. And you're going to make circular patterns. And try to let the sitting bones move too. I know it looks like, I mean, I'm not going to let you see the sitting bones, but I want you to get a feeling of, Okay, it's not just my torso and this appearance of holding my knees, but it's also the movement in the hips. Okay, so as you feel that rotation, you want to keep the sense of the spine lifted versus, rounding it. So there's no putting your chin downwards. You keep a leaning forward, go both directions. Even if you close your eyes and you notice, okay, my seat presses, then I lean, my seat lifts. It's a small tilt, right? So the sitting bone just hovers, a very small amount. But feel that weight that moves into your feet, and then lean to your left elbow and bring the right hand to the back of the chair and twist. And feel where the weight is in your left seat. I might, not be on the exact same appearance of you in the screen, right? Because it's not mirroring, but you're on that left hip, you're turning to the right. And try to get a feeling that your feet are still centering down. Curiosity about the mid-body circulation. And then lean to that right leg, change sides, elbow on the opposite thigh. I would lean the elbow closer to the knee, so you have a wider amount of circulation in the waist. Think wide waist. Okay. So feeling where the weight is into your feet, I get a little bit active on the leg I'm leaning into. So I've got to remind myself to press to my left foot as well. And then maybe you tilt your chin towards your right leg. Maybe you turn your head towards the left. That each of us has individual circumstances, right, to bring your focus to. So if it doesn't feel good for you to have your head turning, or maybe it does feel good and you like the challenge, but you're not required to try to challenge yourself over and over. No, suffering isn't required here, but sometimes it occurs. So noticing if you're suffering a bit, see if you can center, release the breath. Now, next time you come back up center, take the hands to the legs and get a feeling of inhale, chest lifts, and exhale, chest down, so chin towards the chest. Lift up, let the shoulders lift and rotate. And now we're going to take a quad stretch. Okay. So with the feet in the stance, we want to let the movement of the legs kind of inform our next position. So turn to your right side, let the right thigh, and I know the blanket stack might be a little fumbly, but you're going to pivot and be careful of the back leg. So when I pivot, I'm going to lift my hips up first, turn my body weight to my right foot so the toes face away, and then step the left leg back, not just the foot, right? I want to keep a big step back with my left leg. So what I want to inform you is that you're not pushing into your seat and then squiggling around. You have to lift and then sit back down onto the blanket seat, if you've got a blanket, and let that stretch in the left calf behind you. Let that be kind of interesting here. I know I feel it mostly in my front of my left thigh, but I'm trying to balance the information I'm getting into the body, right into my nervous system in the pose. So if there's a lot of arch in your back, that's good. Try to keep with that arch. Try to work with that fundamental strength in your lower back from the shape. Okay, your hands could be on the seat. And I want you to start to work with your right hand reaching to the back bar of the chair. So my right hand stretches to the back bar, holding on to the heel of my right hand, push. And then as I turn my chest to the right, I can bring my left hand to the other side of the back bar of the chair. And then as you feel that rotation, let that left leg feel like it's stretching back. So if your knee is a little achy, I don't want you to keep agonizing it. So if you need more height, take another blanket, that will help. But get a feel of the weight in your sitting bone on the right hip, the right seat. Okay. Some people I've noticed on this that have a long limb, a long lower limb, will Let the top of the foot rest back so the toes kind of point, and find that to be helpful. Yeah, I like to be the very classic, basic toes under, but I can feel when the top of the foot rests. Just depends on your knee. Okay, so explore where the spine turns to the right. Breathe. And feel the mid spine, right? So mid back is moving. And then as you turn back towards the right leg with both hands on the chair seat or the blankets, lean a little forward. And as you begin to come out of this side, use your support, right? Which is a chair. You're going to push into your right foot, slide your left foot a little bit in, come back up, and then turn carefully. So you have this funny stance here, I think. And then as you turn to the other side, the things we do for our bones, huh? We're going to lean down to the left thigh. Yeah, if you could make a chair that would be the perfect size for you, it would be probably a one person at a time craft, isn't it? To customize it. So feel if this back thigh is kind of snagged on the chair. For me, if I don't have a blanket, it's a little bit iffy with the flesh pressure. So you might have to kind of play around with how you are on the seat of the chair. Yeah, make it work for you. So you've got to customize that. And if you didn't have a blanket on one side and you find iffy on my knee, maybe you add a blanket under your left leg. I think a block would be a little bit weird to sit on. Okay, so feel first this arch. Okay. Now, when you turn to the left, bring the left hand first, then the right hand. I want you to feel that you go from this arch, okay? Right, sternum area lifts, and then left hand back, right hand, and then you're turning to the left, and it's a little more satisfying weight into your left thigh. Okay, feel where there's a lot less arch in the spine, although it probably didn't go away. Breathing. And just sense that circulation in the center body. Doesn't need to be overdone, right? So find the most basic weight-bearing position, like right here. Okay. Now, if your back leg, the top of the foot is down, you might feel what that's like. The reasoning is for this muscle memory in the front of the leg. And now come back towards that left leg. This time when we come out, I want you to bring the back leg to the left leg. Now, if you're facing your back of your chair is at the wall, this will be, I think it'll work out. Depends on your space, huh? So when you come out, you're going to center your weight forward into your legs. If you've got a blanket, it's going to go away in a moment. So you're going to lean forward to come up. Then I want you to face your seat of your chair. You're going to be standing. And you're going to place your hands on this chair seat. So if there's a blanket, it goes away. Like I mentioned, get rid of it. Step back. Feel not just like the hands. I don't want you to ache out your wrists here, but feel the feet wide and the hips stretching back. Let your head lean down. So there's width through the armpit chest. And if the legs have enough of a step out and the feet are parallel, manage that circulation in the back of the knees. Really feel the hands reaching forwards. Again, if this hurts your wrists, I would come a little farther forward to the chair and put my elbows on the chair. That would be better for some people. But oh my, that's a little more in the shoulder, isn't it? If you have your elbows on the chair. A lot of shoulder workout. Okay, now as I walk my feet towards each other, big toes to touching, I walk the feet back so that my heels are a little lifted, hands on the chair, lean forward, and then let the torso lengthen and try to keep the heels a lifting. Stretch the hips down towards the chair. You definitely want your chair against the wall. not in the middle of your mat anymore. Okay, now come back, walk to the chair, and let's turn around and take a seat. Grab a hold of the ball and place it between the knees. And have a positioning where when you're seated upright, you can push into the ball. So that means the positioning of the ball is centered. It's not on the tip of the knees. You have to feel like it's in kind of the flesh right on the inside track of the knee versus the bone. So just the knees. So hands back in the chair seat. So the hands reaching back through the chair seat, chest is open. Inhale. I like to think of it as abdomen and the ball. It's not getting squished yet. And then exhale, squeeze. Okay, so inhale, relax the grip on the ball. And exhale, squeeze the ball. And now when you alternate these patterns, it's very subtle. So, well, it could actually feel active. But noticing the alignment of the chest open and the motion of coordinating, pressing into the ball. Sometimes just doing that is enough, just squeezing the ball and relaxing the grip. Everything might take care of itself if you just follow that action. The breath will accommodate the movement, right? So when you squeeze, you might be exhaling. And then as you relax the grip, inhale. And last time, keep the squeeze, at least 70% of it if you can tolerate, and reach the left hand to the outside of the right leg, and then feeling the torso turn. Right hand is back on the seat of the chair, right? I scoop it under the back so the seat of the chair contour. And when you turn to the right, feel the ribs lift. Okay, rotate back in center, hands together, interlace the fingers, turn the hands inside out, relax the grip on the ball. Okay, try to just have the ball as a spacer, that's it. Keep it simple. Okay, and just notice if the shoulders kind of drop. Your activation is just to interlace your fingers inside out. Okay, inhale, abdomen expands. Exhale, squeeze, turn left, bring the right hand to the outside of the left leg, left hand back to the chair seat. And the knees are aiming forward, they're not twisting. So the only thing that gets permission to turn is maybe your head, right, is moving around, but your ribs to the left. So feel that rotation, breathing. And keep it kind of prim and proper here. So just simple. And now as you relax the squeeze of the ball and the twist, I want you to take the ball out and let's get a belt. Okay, so I'm seated a little forward on my chair. I'm not all the way pushing back into the bar of it. So this gives me a little temptation to work on my core balance. So have the belt and bring the right foot up and kind of just get a feeling of whether you can coordinate your muscles to help you out here. Sometimes we complain that we can't do something, right, because our postures just doesn't allow us. So hook under your right foot. This helps you out right away, just to have something holding your leg. And then you're going to strike the right leg out and feel what muscles bind to hold this position. You know, when you do this standing, there's so much efforting that it's hard to figure out what your composition is for the balance. So I actually kind of prefer some of these in seat. Okay, so what I'm trying to get a feel is this whole back area, not just my leg, but when I lift the leg up, yeah, see if you can let the leg kind of drop into the positioning of the belt. So you really have to effort to hold it. Now your leg's going to do some work too, but try to use your arms a bit here. And then as you lift up a little higher, the leg engages. Okay. Now flex the foot. No choice but to do that, I'm sure, but pull. Okay, now as you bend the right knee, I want you to lift the knee as if you're moving it towards your face, right? You're trying to move your knee towards your face. Might get somewhere. Okay, bring the belt to the inside of the right leg. You're gonna hold the belt with the left hand and then just pull the right foot to the left side. Okay, so just keep this for a moment. I know the belt's kind of a little strange to have on the foot for after you get there, but try to keep it there so you keep the foot flexed, right? Flexion is knee protection. Just go, okay, I got it down, my foot's flexed. So release the belt, try to keep the flexed foot, take your bolster, and if your foot gets a little bit passive, it happens. Just give it some information. If my foot is kind of hooked right to the bones connected towards the knee, that kind of helps it stay in that hook. Even if I stop pushing into the flex. Lean forwards, okay, and work towards, let's not say work, okay, experience the movement of the breath first, and then maybe as you guide into tilting, maybe you can't go very far some days. But as you explore the movement of that, even the left foot down on the floor, I sometimes will slide my foot in, so it's right under the knee. Feel how you lean into it, breathing. Tilt a little farther forward. And then find your maximum. There's always further to go. So relax your right foot a little bit and see if that changes the opportunity to move farther forward. Okay, I'm not moving, but I feel like I'm stretching. I'm just kind of still. Okay, so with that right hip and that right knee, now if my right knee is really high up, I'm trying to get that knee to just move with gravity kind of outwards. Doesn't take much to juice up the hip a bit, huh? Okay, now come back up, move the bolster back against the wall or on the floor. And I want you to hold under that right leg with both hands and just hold the leg and circle it. Just circle it. If you feel that you're holding your leg, there's a little weight and you're rotating the thigh, go outwards and then circle back inwards. Then flex the foot, reach the heel forward on the ground, lean forward. Actually, I like this one with a couple blocks. Yeah, even if you can put your forehead on your toes, blocks are probably good. Right, it reduces that rounded spine. So if you're noticing, oh, my back is getting a big rounded kind of cape, then you might find that you're better off with your hands on the chair. Okay. All right, now come back in with that right foot. You might just tap it out here, just kind of get a feeling of circulation in the feet. Make them wide, take them back in, get your belt, as I mentioned, and left foot in the belt. Yeah, you have a little rounding power to get the foot, and then you extend. It's nice to have a little bit of this and then go back to reaching. Okay, so the left heel reaches, and as I pull on the belt, I lift up my chest, really trying to notice where my neck reacts, right? So I'm using the muscles that it'd be nice if I can strengthen them, right? The muscles that are attached to my upper back, even attached to my arms. Nobody wants their neck to get tighter. So see what you can kind of muscle into. Maybe you feel your bicep curl a little bit on both arms. Okay. So you could lift the leg up, you could pull a little further, but you decide, just keep it simple. See if you can move your weight a little forward on your sitting bones. Okay. If the hip is tired, this is a really interesting one to notice the strength of the hip. So breathing. Okay, now point the knee up and then pull the leg back. Hold onto the bell on the inside of that left leg. All right. And then hook that left foot to the right leg. I like to stay with the belt for just a few seconds, really. I don't need to target the, pulling tighter on it, but I feel that knee moving out. And if I walk the right foot forward and I lean forward, okay, then I know, okay, the belt's not it's not useful any longer. So when I lean forward now with my bolster, yeah, you got to find how that ankle fits on the right leg. Because if you have it too high to the knee, it's going to get a little bit, you're going to slosh around on it. So I don't think the ankle and the knee have a particularly good connection in that. So leaning forward. And you don't want to explain an injury saying, well, I think my ankle was attacking my knee. It's my ankle's fault. Okay, lean forward, weight into sitting bones and the right foot. Okay, now of course it's okay to tilt farther, right? You could meet your torso towards your legs, but remember your work is on extending the spine versus this slumping kind of thing. Okay, although I think after you erase that from your practice, it doesn't feel as good when you do it. So I think it's interesting. Just work on a little extension. Doesn't mean you have to have your neck tightening. You could let your head tilt. I know your spine has superpowers. Just think about that as much as you can. My spine has superpowers. Okay, now when you feel that you're leaning forward, feel the weight into that right foot, breathing. Some weight is in the bolster, right? Some significant weight is forward. Yeah, this is one where circling your foot can be nice to do as well. And when you come back, lift up the chest. Okay, bolster goes to the side. And then the left foot stretches forward. So, this for me, sometimes I get a lot of hip work, but the band at the side of the knee, that little that banded land, you can get a little tense. So reach forward with that foot, and you could be simply here. Don't have to tilt and touch your blocks. It's probably going to enhance the sensation. So if you lean forward, hands down. Yeah, I like this one quite a bit. This is a little more advanced than if you did like a typical chair yoga class, because you don't want people falling out of their chairs, but this is good for this bones class, I think. You'll let me know. Yeah, the weight in the hips. So it's almost as if I have a relaxed abdomen in this one, because it's a nice little massage into the abdominal organs, leaning down. And if the foot gets a little bit tired from getting the flesh to just keep flexing, you can just feel your heel. That's probably plenty of energy into the back of the leg. Okay. Now let's leave our blocks there. And then hands back to the chair or your thighs. Come up. Slide the left foot in and then stretch your arms out. I want you to get a feeling where the weight is in your feet and lean forward. So arms are just to the sides. And then I'm going to lower my hands onto my blocks and then lift my hips off the chair. So I'm basically in a standing forward fold now on my 2 feet, not on my sitting bones. And then take the blocks forward, depending on your range of motion. And experience that full circulation in the back of the legs. It's like, wow, lots of circulation. It's pretty much a muscular, right, kind of power strip here. So when I lean back into my hips, I'm going to bend through the legs, and I want you to take a reach down to the floor if you can. So you're going to walk on forward. If you need your blocks, you'll have to use them kind of as assists. But you walk onto the other side of your mat, and then walk your feet back. Bring them so that you get a feeling that you're close to touching the chair with your leg parts. You can actually get a little subtle feeling of the chair. Okay. Now, when you feel the circulation into your arms, the full kind of blown weight bearing, let your spine center. Okay, simple, simple. Bring your feet close together and get a feeling when the legs are closer, right? They might not be entirely melded, but they're close. What circulation is in the chest? Does it get more intense in the hands, the wrists, the chest when your feet are closer? Okay, now step the feet back apart, and then we'll go forward to like an upright push-up, but bring your hands out very wide on the mat and stretch the torso forward. The knees lightly touch down, the tops of the feet rest so that the knees press further. Stretch the chest up. Okay, now feel where there's a pretty significant movement into the spine. And now come back to toes under, lift up the knees, step the right foot forward, take 2 blocks as high as you want them. You can have them all the way up, you can have them second setting, but I want you to feel where that left thigh is stretching back. You can bring your knee to the ground. That's perfect. I prefer it for the moment. Blanket might be nice. You can add one, but feel where that right thigh is striving to move forward, whether the knee is up or down. Okay, step the left foot to the right foot. We're going to come up to stand, and I want your feet to be at least as wide as like the smallest setting on the block. Okay, you could even put a block between them if you want. But when you do come up, feel how the back of the legs have so much attention, generally, don't they? And then hands onto the hips. And then as you move your hips, kind of pressing your hips back, then I want you to actively feel like the spine is centered, the chest is open, and the hips move forward. Lift up your gaze to the ceiling. Open the chest, feel the hips. Okay. All right, now what we'll do here is you're going to keep that standing shape, but I'm just moving so you can see this a bit better. You're going to cross your right leg over the left, okay? So right leg over the left leg, and then try to let the hips move forward and lift the chest. And if you get a little wobbly, get close to a wall, lift the chest, and then take that forward motion. I want you to go about, 75% of your max. So you don't have to go all the way to your full stressful experience. But if you have your hands on the blocks, that could be useful on this one. Should feel a little weird in the legs. You're definitely squeezing the thigh muscles. Okay. Take another breath here, just a few moments. Okay, and if your head is down, it's a little better for the sinuses, right? We're getting a little bit of a roller coaster for the respiratory roller coaster. Okay, come on up. Try to get the back of your skull to help you lift. I'm sure there's muscles there, huh? And then switch sides, right foot back, and then I'm going to take the left leg, cross it over the right. So what's happening is this leg kind of smashes into little bit into the quad flex, the quadplex, we could call it, quadplex. Because I don't think my quad's flexing. Okay, now I'm trying to keep my thighs, I know they like to just go here because this is where we're going, but I want you to keep the thighs kind of standing up so they have firm placement down into your heels. okay? And then when you go forward, take a moment when you lean forward. Okay, feel when you stretch the hands down that you're pushing back into the legs, right? That left leg's pushing back into the right leg. It's likely very stretchy, okay? Okay, breathe. It only helps. You know, as you move the weight into your feet, you might feel your hips also push back to help your balance. And then when you come up, uncross that left leg, take your 2 feet apart, away from the chair, and then lean forward, take your hands to the blocks and step the right foot back into the lunge, get close to the chair with the leg so you can feel that. And that's just helping out with your alignment. So if you have that same thing on the first side and the second, unless your chair is starting to fold, it's giving you some balance of your alignment. Okay. Now, my hand weight is a little different, right? I have a little more weight in one hand than the other because of the leg property. So my left leg, you know, is helping out my left hand in some ways. So feel when you're in that lunge, right? If you want to lower your back knee, fine. If you're just okay here, just stay with that. Feel that lunge, muscular sensation into the hips. Okay, breathe. If you need to lower the knee, that's okay. But if you do lower it and you feel some cross fibers getting uncomfortable in the knee, just keep it lifted, right? Because that's probably less influence right through the cartilage here. So get a feeling of that strength, pressing. Okay, and then we're going to lead our way to the chair. So what I want you to do is turn to your right, bring your block on the left side to the inside, turn to the right carefully to the back foot. But I want us to go first things is that we'll just have the wide stance. So the feet are wide, the toes are maybe turned in a little bit. Okay, have a block flat, or if it needs to be second height, that's fine, right? So flat might work for some. Hand on, and then turn to the right, have the right inner thigh stretch, like you're leaning to the right side as the right arm goes up. Okay, come down with the right hand. Actually, you can use both blocks for this. I don't know why I'm just holding on to one. Turn to the other side. And use them so the inner thigh stretches. Okay, come back and center. Okay, take a moment here, not that I can see what we're up to, but I want you to get a feeling of your hips, kind of wag your hips side to side. Okay, just that movement with the legs straightish. You can feel a little bit of inner thigh stretch. Okay, so kind of notice that hip motion. Okay, so that's enough. So let's scoot our feet in and then walk over to the chair. Turn your hands up to the chair, turn to the right. Okay, so the inner thigh circulation, I want you to notice. Okay, so we're going to take a balance and you'll have just your hands on the seat. You're going to slide your right foot back so you can see it easy. It's right under your knee. And when you lift the back leg up, just lift it a little bit, like you're hovering it, the foot at least. And then press into the right foot and turn at the hip to get the waist, well, actually not the waist, but the leg to lift so the inner thigh is working. Try to get this to do the work. Okay? And then maybe your left arm goes up. So there you go, use the hip, use the motion of the hip. Even though hips get tired, hips get fatigued pretty quick on some of these. But this is what we're doing is some hip strength. Lower the left hand down, bend the right knee, step the left foot back, and just take a simple chair supported full leg length stretch, right? So in this pose, we have both legs straight-ish. I mean, nothing has to be straight fully, but a little bit of extension. And, you know, if you lower down your elbows, that's okay if you're a little bit tired. But this is more stretch if I go to my elbows. Still a little bit more work, but less tiring on the heart. Okay. So feel how the left leg is kind of being the whole power strip of the back of the leg is fully lengthening. It's getting some power surge, I think. Okay, bend the right knee. You feel the left calf stretch. Just give it a moment. The calf deserves it. Okay. Now come back with the hands on the seat and take the right arm open and up. So you still have the lunge on the right leg forward, left leg back. You can change how wide your stance is on the left foot behind you. The foot could be turned a little bit out. Now milk that circulation in the calf. Okay, swing the right arm back and lower the hand to the chair. Take a moment where you just stretch your feet out wide on the mat and you kind of hang out here for a second. Just feel the arms stretch, the chest between. If your feet are starting to turn out, turn them back to parallel. Yeah, sometimes the more muscle memory you have, just creating that postural kind of assignment, like stay back parallel here. Okay, if your neck is getting tight, of course you can let your head release down between the arms. This is where you can really feel your chest start to stretch. This sequence it's just like it gets everything. Okay, come back and center. And now we've got the left foot to go forward. Yeah, and maybe you just go into the left foot and step it forward and kind of move your hips a little bit. Okay, so if you were just to wag your tail, you probably couldn't balance. If you just spent your energy like that, you might fall over. So we want to feel like there is a little swing into this one though. So I have the weight of my left foot. It's under my knee. It's not behind my knee or too far under the chair. So you want to feel like you can step into it. Now when the back leg lifts, everything stirs up in this left leg, but not just the back of it, but the inside of it. This is the part that I think is challenging to get across. So when you lift that right leg up, can you turn at your hip into half moon pose and lift the right arm up and rotate? And one side might be like just so bizarre with your balance. You just can't figure out why it's so different, but work with the opportunity, right? If this is a more challenging knee, it might be hard for you to balance on it. All the energy is going into, sometimes inflammation. So lower the right hand down and just get a feel here of that right leg lifting. Turn the right foot to face down, step the foot back, and then take that full stance so that both legs have a little bit of work. You could bend your left knee. The back leg though won't bend very much. It's not in the bending experience right now. Yeah, so go for really feeling notice how your hips levelize, look back at your upper leg, your hip bone. Make sure it's pretty balanced. And then just go into that sense of circulation into your back calf. So if you bend your left knee, you might feel not as much as the last side. It could be different. Okay, now right hand on the chair. Bring your left arm open and lift the arm up. So feel where there's that rotation and there's circulation in the leg as well. I find that my torso is efforting, and then I have to get my left leg to straighten and get that left hip involved. If I can add more characters to the experience, right, it's an easier load. Distribute the load. Yeah, you could turn your head to look down to the chair. Feel that left arm, it could be behind your back. This feels better for my shoulder. Then I can use my mid-body, my ribs. Yeah, they can always work more, right? Your ribs, your breathing. Okay. So feel the reach into the back heel, like you know the heel is close to down if it's not lifted or it's pivoting. Bring that's your assignment. Feel back into the right heel and then turn the waist. Okay, this is what I'm noticing now. I'm not staring at your pose, but I'm noticing when I turn my waist in, my shoulder, it's a little aggravating. So what I have to do is use my core body to make the turn. This abdominal area needs to fire. So activate. So the shoulders don't take all the burden here. And then find that turn. I know nobody was doing that. It was just me. So step the left foot back and take an up dog. Lift up the chest, breathe, reach through your feet, right? Stretch your toes. It's like a toe stand. Okay, and then come back on down, knee to knee. All right. Okay, let's make a change here. Let's take a seat and have the chair right where it's at and grab a blanket and unfold it so that if it's, well, actually, maybe yours isn't folded, but you're going to have a blanket behind you that's fairly flat. This might even be too much height. We'll see. Okay, it's far enough back. Then make sure your blocks are near you, the sand. You're going to use the ball in the beginning. So have a ball or a block. If you don't have a ball, the block works fine between the knees. And when you lean down, you're going to lower back. You're going to make sure that just your head is on the blanket, not your shoulders. Now give yourself the opportunity to select that one. Feet are wide on the chair seat and a ball between the knees. Not too far into the thigh, the ball is, because let's not talk about why. Let's just do that. Okay. Enough analysis, huh? Okay. Now, when I have my feet lifted, I can feel like a world where this is just on the edge of the comfort of my knee. So imagine we're all different heights. So I don't think you're going to want to put a riser under your hips, but notice if it's too much, you just slide back. You give yourself more distance from the chair. Right, so if it's just too edgy coming up, you just would move a little farther back. Okay, so feel just the naturalness of your back touching down. Notice where your weight is in your shoulders. Maybe your arms just relax beside you. They could be out. They could be down by your hips. But noticing the natural touch on each side of your back. Notice where it does change, right? For some of us, it seems pretty even, but just your weight perspective in your shoulders might be just a micro difference. So let your head nod from side to side. Now feeling when you lean your head and tilt and nod it, you're nodding, right? You're rolling your head. Not putting your chin to your shoulder, but rolling your head. Okay, now center the back of the skull. If it's tiring for you to do that, the blanket's too low, just try doing it. I don't want you to keep increasing the roundedness of your upper back. So for most of us, this is becoming an effort now because of our head posture. So just keep working with this, the neck open, opening in the neck, the back of the skull, but let it rest into the floor or the blanket. Don't try to hold your head up. If anything you do in this, don't pull your neck up. Okay. Now push into your feet, bring your arms up towards the ceiling, and let that circulation go all the way up the back into a drawbridge. And then lower the spine, and then the arms. And just feel like there's a flowing sensation through the back. I love the chair for bridge pose because it gets me higher up on my back. So yeah, if you occasionally lift your head, remind yourself to let your head go. It's usually being held up most of the day. So these are good opportunities just to be with your body parts in a different way. They got kind of the same assignment most of the day, right? The head is up, the feet are down. Okay, so if your movement is just on principle of I'm lifting my hips, I'm supposed to lift my hips, feel the movement glide in your back. Not just your spine, but your back parts. Mostly your back muscular parts, huh? This isn't a lot of hip parts yet. Okay, now bring the knees in towards your chest and arms open. If you got stuff in your way, just make sure your arms are even on the ground. Knees side to side, just right across. Don't try to bring the knees towards the shoulders unless they naturally touch your shoulders, but just side to side. So massaging the abdominal area, the abdominal muscles have to work out a little bit here. Okay. Now squeeze the ball when you come back in center, then go to the side. When you come back in center, squeeze and then relax the squeeze. The feet could be really close together. Okay, last time when you come back in center, press your feet onto the edge of the chair. Kind of let them just flex and relax on the edge of the chair. So you're not trying to step them onto the chair, and squeeze into the ball. Okay, feel how there's energy in the legs now. It's not just in your back anymore, it's now into the legs. And then center the lower back like you're trying to make a little print of your back in the floor, like your best back print. Okay, like the leaf prints that you used to do. All right, so taking the ball away, let's lift our hips up with the block now. So you can take one or two. If you take two, you can either have them side by side under your pelvis or stacked. Yeah, I don't know what I like best. It just depends. So press down into my heels. I'm going to lean my heels onto the edge of the chair, lift my hips, slide the blocks in so they meet for me side by side, just onto the very low back, not anywhere up into my spine pressure, right? So it's under the pelvis. Okay, now make sure the blanket didn't somehow scoot under your shoulders, and take the legs straight up to flush them out. Okay, feeling how the block support is. Do you like it? Do you want to change it? This would be your time to make a change. If it's not quite, if it feels like it's exactly across from each other, but for some reason that other hip isn't responding the same, take some time to assess if you want your blocks like that, if you want to lower it so you only have one across horizontal. Sometimes that feels better. It's pretty good. You can also bring the other one in so it's a spacer. Okay, we'll see what happens. All right, you can't go wrong just trying them out until you feel like you are balancing onto that block or blocks. The arms are shed down by the sides, legs are lifted. Okay, now notice the energetic of your pelvis. It's an inversion, and what makes that an inversion is that the pelvis is higher, right? Then it's not flat on the ground. That's the inversion. What makes it that? Not necessarily just the legs. So it's the diaphragm tilting, it's reversing the flow in the diaphragm. Because it's going to have to go with the show. Okay. So now feel simply the leg awareness, not the shape, because it's the idea of how it looks is probably something we should just keep getting away from more and more, huh? Is how does it feel? Those days are over, right? Just I'm working on my alignment, how I feel. Here I am. Okay, now I want you to try to get the hip flexors to stretch soon. So feeling where the weight is in the back of the pelvis. Move the legs a little forward. Right when the lower abdomen feels like it's tightening is a good time to change the knees to bending. Okay, and then you can put weight back into the tailbone and then stretch the legs onto the chair. Now, if you have the blocks stacked up higher, will be interesting, right? You might find the calf pressure is intense. I would just leave it without the sand. I think that would be wise. If you really want some sand on your hip flex, you could go with that. But this is pretty good. So I'm just trying to get a feeling of my legs forward. My feet are pretty passive. That gentle openness in the front of the hips. If I take my feet a little bit or my legs a little farther outwards on the chair, that can be helpful too. Just let this whole leg front. It's a leg front. Just let it be. Rather than trying to push it higher or move the tailbone under to do something better, just let the circulation in the nervous system respond that it's just there. It's just opening up. Of course, if you feel like I want my calves not to hurt so much, this is a lot of pressure, what you could do is move closer to the chair, right? And maybe it won't put so much into your calves. I like the massage on my calf personally. It's always interesting how tight they do feel when they're being massaged into. I know ideally you could put a tennis ball under each calf right now, huh? Or a therapy ball. Can you relax the buttocks, right? This is the one kind of bridge pose you can do without gripping the glutes. You don't have to grip them. Now take cobbler's pose, bring the feet to the edge of the chair. Knees are out, feet are together. It's a different sensation in the first pose today. It's somewhat similar, but the gravitational pull on the legs is different. You're upside down. It's a little more satisfying. It starts out where you use some of your muscular control to evade the process, and then you go, oh, this does stretch. So I want you to get a feel of this inner leg stretch. For most of us that have hip flexor, a lot of tension here, this is a good one to do upside down, right? Backwards, reclining cobbler's pose, good one. It does get in that territory in the hip flexor. It would be an interesting one would be having a foot on the floor and one foot up on the chair, but that's pretty extreme. So let's keep it simple. If you want to try that, putting one foot down, just be careful of your knee. So I'm not interested in hurting my knee at all. So feel where the feet are together-ish. They're close. They might not be imprinting, but they're close. And then when you come up with the knees, you didn't come up with those. Okay, press into your feet and then push and feel. Of course, the legs are going to activate, but I want you to slide the blocks out first. And we're going to work all the way up the sideline. So when you lower down your hips or your spine and then your hips, then center, first center. Okay, bring the knees into your chest. You know there's a chair on the other side here. So if you roll up here, you want to be cautious of hitting a chair. So use the hands on the backs of the legs, knees to chest, and roll up. Okay, if you end up on the chair, great. Okay, but get a feeling when you slide your hands back and you reach for your blankie, you're gonna actually lift up your hips onto the blanket and then take the right leg forward to cross-legged, the left leg behind it. Yeah, I like to pull my blanket in so I have a substantial amount under my seat. It's not that helpful, but it's cushion. So take a cross-legged position. So the spine is still in that developing experience of the last pose. And maybe you put a sandbag on the right thigh and maybe a ball under the left leg. So that's the leg that might be a little bit resistant here. The right leg has already got an advantage. And then reach your hands under the seat and lean forward. Okay, now if I go farther forward in the chair and I feel like my knee is uncomfortable, guess what you get to do is sit on a bolster or a higher blanket or add a blanket. Take this one for a few moments, okay? So you might need more height. So if you feel like it's not enough, just get another blanket under your hips. If you're taller, I think it will be easier because you can touch the chair, like it's a little closer for you. You know, if I'm short, I have to kind of lift up to it. Okay, it is what it is, huh? So lean forward. Now this feels a little easier on my knee. It's a small change, but it's much better. Okay, so lean forward out of the waist. Feel where there's rounded experience in the spine. And then see if you can work with lifting up the chest, inhaling, walking the hands on forwards. Breathing. Bring the hands back and change the crossing. Keep it real easy. So left leg crosses forward or right, ball under the right knee maybe, sand on the left thigh. First find the line of the spine. It's behind you. It's inside you too. And then when you go forward, you bring your hands to the seat. So maybe feel there's a few places that tilt, right? There's waist, hip, there's ribs, shoulders. Breathing slow. And now feel that there's some kind of pulse in your hip from this work, this specific moment. There's a little pulse of kind of a nugget in the hip that's, you know, kind of getting cranked into with the left hip for this side. And when you come back, I want you to slide the sand over to the left, uncross the legs. You might want to do a little bit of a shakeout with the legs. Take your chair. You probably have to bend your knees to safely hurl a chair behind you, I think. So you're going to bend through the legs and then take the chair behind you. Careful. Okay. Slide down off the blanket and then stack them up behind you towards the chair. So you want to have a pretty good quarter fold duo. Quarter fold duo. I know someone's going to probably say that's not at all what a quarter fold is, but that's what I like to think it is. Then get a bolster, add it to the center of your mat, ball, and then lean into the left hip next to the bolster. Hip is on the floor. Ball is on the inside of the right leg for some of us. And then you're going to get a hold of that sand and stack it onto the very side of that right side of the body and lean down to your blanket with your head. Right arm stretches over to the chair, not required. The chair is not something you're going to use for this part, then you don't have to even worry about it. Your arm can be down by the side. The chair is like a pretty large prop for this one. So this is what I find can be interesting. Instead of my hand being down on the chair, I could turn my arm so my palm is open. Just variety. You could not do that with a block. So it gives you a little lift in your chest. The waist is gently lengthening via the impression of the sand. And the weight of your head is down into that blanket. Okay, let's give a very full, about 15 to 20 more breaths. Just give it some full time. Whatever full time means when you're doing yoga. Feel the movement of the ribs. The weight into that left side. Now let your waist really stretch back. So if the sand is too much pressure, you can nudge it off. Sometimes you can let your waist, the circulation is getting there, and your motion helps you stretch it just by a little bit of kind of eking out some movement towards the ceiling. Not much effort needed. And now when you do switch sides, I want you to take a horizontal chest opener between. So that really is so simple. You're going to lean to your left hip just so your knees can release that ball. What you might like to do when you roll onto your back on the bolster, you might like a block inserted under your pelvis or the ball. If your ball is pretty squishy, it works fine. If it's too pumped up, it's probably too much. But I can put the ball where I normally would put the block. And it's an interesting relationship with the curve of the spine. If it doesn't give you enough support, then use the block, because it's pretty minor, isn't it? Once you squish it, it doesn't feel like much is there. But just open the chest. Let the knees stay bending. Feel the weight back into the ribs. You know, in the daytime, these areas, right, are pretty dormant, right? Not just because they're covered up, that's not why, but just our relationship to this center piece of the body, which is really valuable. It's crucial to have it. Okay, now as we begin to shift sides, you might make it easy. So you use the bolster touch, right? You're going to lean into that right side on the bolster, and change is minimal efforting, right? Don't make it too effortful. Like you have to get up and down. Just place the ball and then make sure the knee is comfortable. So the more kind of, in some ways, you're in the side leaping position, feel what comfort's going to be for your knee angles, right? Your right knee, your left waist into the thigh. And then when you lean into it, you might have your head turn a little bit. You might stack up your blanket higher on the second side. But just feel the weight into that hip. Okay, and the back muscles have a great amount of support here. Side positions, you know, seated side angles can be sometimes feel daring for my spine. So this is very comfortable. This is a good warm up for those side angles, although we're not going to get to those today, but just keep that in mind. If seated side angles are difficult, try to warm up with this. And take another about 10 breaths here. If the weight into your hips is uncomfortable, just the bones, you can always add padding to any of these poses if you're on an uncomfortable surface. And now when you do lower your left arm down, we're going to simply slide the sand over. And you can let it just drop off. Bring the left knee towards the right. And then as you kind of hunker down over on that right side, lift up your waist and slide the bolster to the right side of your mat. Then turn so that you're on your back. Way too many blankets. Okay, head onto one, and I don't think the chair is essential here, but you'll let the left leg swing over to the bolster on the right side. And having that bolster height, that's good for you. So it might be half of us that can just use just the bolster. Sometimes you need something more like a block, right? Or a blanket on top. You can kind of work with it. You know, you could push the bolster in so it's kind of wedged. It can sometimes be helpful. If it feels helpful, you know, maybe you take that opportunity to sample it out. Now, when you slide the sandbag over, be careful on the wrist, right? Use, you know, when you get a hold, you want to kind of feel hold bicep working, some upper arm muscles that add. So just energize that leg with the sand. Open the left arm, turn your head to the left maybe. The waist turns, and you can close your eyes. And let the pose kind of soak in. So the final few poses really make it well-rounded, I think, the sequence for your bones. Let's hope so. Feeling the breath. Notice if it moves the lower beam of the torso or the upper. So we're trying to get lower with the breath in the torso. So relaxing the heart. Okay, now slide the ball, then the sand. And then when you shift sides, you might go back to the feet pressing gently into the floor, knees pointing up. Take the bolster to the other side. Perfect. And feeling, sometimes I like to let the knees touch together like constructive rest, just so the back of the pelvis is still, there's still good circulation prompting there. And then as I swing, so I can let the knees both lift, the feet both lift up, and then swing the right leg over. So, feel kind of a little bit of free range with your inner structure. Sometimes we go to these pose assignments and forget about the little movements in between. So I think that's really important, but that's just my angle on it. I think the pose assignments, focus on the pathway to get there. Okay, so the right arm is open. I have sand on my outer right leg. Not all of you are going to add this exact thing. You might have your sand higher. I find that having it towards my knee is a little bit more comforting for just seems more complete for the leg muscles. And it does maybe make it stretchier too. So it's up to you. You don't even have to use sand. But when you turn your chest open towards the right, and some of you have a couple sandbags to put one on the right armpit. It is a lot on the shoulder, right? But if it's fine for your shoulder, and it just feels like the circulation in the chest is stretching, great. But if it's only the shoulder, it's probably at some point going to aggravate it, right? If you just feel it in the shoulder complex. So you want to feel the stretch in the chest too. So feel that right shoulder center down. Feel your head roll to the right. And then add on that focus for the waist to turn. Eyes relax, breathing slow. And now spend a moment noticing your musculature in your back and your waist. It's complex right now. It's a complex experience, twisting. Okay, now when you slide the ball away and the sand, you'll motion so that rotation can kind of erase pretty quickly. So I'm going to roll to my left, push down with my hands, and then when I come up, I'm going to take the bolster now. After that complex turn, I'm going to shift my blanket closer to the wall and then sit back onto the bolster all the way to the wall with my seat. Critical, I'm really close to the wall, obnoxiously close. Side of my bolster, roll to my left hip, swing my left arm under, my left arm actually slides under, and then I roll. So I do feel sometimes like I'm gonna roll off of it. So get as close as you feel comfortable. Remember, you don't have to touch the wall with your seat on this. Some schools do not like that idea. They're far away. There's a block between the bolster and the wall. So it's different, right? And even Iyengar school will have both of those versions. Probably more often the block between the bolster. So you feel now, if you're getting used to this straight up and down and you're feeling so excited about it, then stick with that. But when you add your sand, it might change that impression a bit too. So when I add sand to my feet, my focus now is kind of shifted from how close I can be to the wall to the heels at the wall. So it might naturally angle your legs a little bit. But you want to find that the legs are really balanced. So let that be your focus. However far away you are from the wall, let the legs be balanced. Then the pelvis. That's kind of easy to balance, I know, because it's just one bowl. It's a basin here. Right? And although you're upside down, the basin idea changes. I think your feeling of the pelvic basin is now becomes like a bowl versus when you're standing upright. So that's why it's so therapeutic, right, for the digestive tract, but even the vital organs, the lower abdominal organs, and then the circulation with the breathing muscles. Yeah, get yourself situated, literally. Arms resting below the height of the heart. And this is in reversing the flow of gravity to the heart and the brain, and inversion. And let the eyes close. And recirculate the movement of breath in the center of the body. Notice how you can work the breathing so that the chest is relaxing. Like you're relaxing your heart, relaxing the brain, even the lungs. So on the exhalation, lengthen the out breath. Just being in the shape and the pathway change, right? The circulation transition inside the body is all you're aware of, right? Just that there's a circulation change, the dynamic has shifted, and that's all you're present for. Well, hopefully. I know the mind has its ways of many actions, even though you look still. But if you put the body in the position, right, there hopefully will be, some of this inner transition going on. Just put the body in these shapes, and inside can change. Now feeling where the weight is in the hips, maybe even in your upper back. And now shift the feet from the wall, bend the knees, and take your time to transition the sand off of the feet. You might fling it back behind you. You might have a natural habit of letting your feet drop the sand into your hands and then take it over. But first experience really is just the feet touching the wall, And then I sometimes like to slide the feet up so that my knees are safe, but I can feel that connection into my feet, awareness into my hips without standing on my feet straight underneath me. Okay, that's a good experience just for the spine and the hip bones. And then if you have anything onto your ribs, you could actually probably roll with it. I don't think it's gonna hurt you. And then come on up and take a mini moment here just to feel where you're getting back upright. It's been a while, you've been upside down or turned around. Bring your hands to rest in your lap and feel how you move your head back to the wall. See if the wall can hold your head a little bit. This is nice to feel how my head is up on top of my spine. And then bring your hands together. The palms are touching, the heels of the hands merge. Feel the hands reaching away from the heart, breathing in. And exhale, tilting your head down and bowing into the space behind your heart.